All right, Dr. Blessman, it's so good to see you. I see your hair done. It's fly too.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm trying something different, something new.
It looks
Um,
good.
Thank you. Thank you. I am thrilled and excited to have Chef Sadakia on our show. I've known uh,
Ooh.
Chef T for over 2 decades now. Um, he is my go-to caterer whenever I have personal events at my home. And we have been a part of the group that has supported the development of his restaurant. Um, it's I think it's the only vegan restaurant in Chicago on the South Side. But we're going to get into a conversation about that a little bit later. Um, but I've known him for a long time, and one of the things I say is that he has the kind of food that it's vegan food that carnivores love. So, we just what can I say? It's always a pleasure and a thrill to take people there, even my carnivore friends. But it's his whole approach to cooking and his approach to what he's done with the restaurant that's just incredible. If you want to see uh, the link to the restaurant is Majani Biz, MAJANI.biz. And I just wanted to share with you like some of the core values for the restaurant. And it's interesting because when we take a look at why people do what they do, and I can say that he lives up to the core values that he talks about in his restaurant. For example, integrity. They'll always be truthful and lead by example through our process, fresh and local ingredients, and the experience we provide in our restaurants. Health. We hope that our food provides nourishment inside and out and encourages us all to pass that feeling on to everyone we meet. Profit. Profit is not a luxury, it's a value that our business and community deserves in order to create a successful future. Community. We take pride in creating safe, comfortable spaces for our customers to gather. We aim to create unity and be a beacon for change. Service, delivery, the best in all we do, creating a warm, friendly, professional experience for every guest every time. And then finally, and this is my favorite line, love. Our greatest gift to the world is showing love through our actions. And believe you me, every time I go to a restaurant to eat or if I order food, I do feel loved. And I think, he puts all of his love into what it is that he does. So on that note, here is Chef Sadakia. Chef T, are you on? I
Yes,
can't
I
see
am
you.
on
There you
here.
go. There you go. Um, so I was thinking about, okay, I don't really know your entire story. I know there's a backstory. So like, I know you from the restaurant days, from the first restaurant till now.
Perfect. Yes.
So but what I want to know, I want to hear about the backstory. Like, tell us about, like, where'd you grow up, and who influenced you to become a cook? Like, let's start there. Let's start with that one, okay?
Well, I am one of 16 children, 14
Mm,
by my 14 by my mom. My dad had two previously before her, and
hmm.
I grew up in northern Wisconsin. We
Oh,
had
okay.
40, yeah, 40. We were right at the Michigan border, so I was 1 mile from the Michigan border. So we
Mm,
had 40. Grew up out in the country, 40 acres. We were the only black family for about 100 miles, and
oh,
had a
that
great.
that had to be different.
Yeah, but I would say that my dad had migrated from Detroit, so
Mm,
I'm number 12, so everybody above me had been born in Detroit, and my dad was like he was tired of the city, of all the issues, and he left just
mm,
before the riots of '67 in Detroit.
okay.
So And so he just wanted a better life for his family. And so we had 40 acres, and we had, which might have been 1,000 because there was no fence between us and the forest. So we wandered and did all kinds of stuff. But so produce was, food was fresh. It was local. I mean, all the things that you would want it to be. Um, and so that's kind of how and my father was a blue collar guy. He worked for the VA hospital. He was a veteran, and he liked to cook on the weekends. I think some of my fondest memories were of him making like this big batch of whole wheat bread and buns, proofing it and
Mm,
rising it
okay.
and all that stuff. And the one dish that he made that he loved to make was one of the few times that we ate beef. Um, he would make this beef stew, and I used to be like just right there watching. And
Uh-huh.
we
Okay.
were raised Seventh-day Adventist, so we were already fairly health conscious. Like my father never brought
Uh-huh.
pork into the house, and so
So you all
being
weren't vegetarian? I thought Seventh-day Adventists were vegetarians.
well, from my understanding, they had been vegetarian for many years, and then one day they just decided we're going to eat turkey. And
Oh,
so
okay.
it was that kind of brought meat back into the house. But I think I was just before I was born, from that, which
Okay.
was my understanding. So, but my father, he would bring meat into the house on a sparingly. It wasn't like it was all the time, and it was a centerpiece. So, but
Hmm.
my influence
Okay.
was definitely from my father watching him cook, and being raised in that environment. So,
Okay.
yes,
Okay. There was a lot of mouths to feed, 14 of you all.
man, right, right. I felt like he was cooking for a restaurant back then.
Okay.
Because he would
Right.
buy like potatoes by the 50-pound bag, and so
Right.
yeah, so
Right. So the 40 acres, was that also a farm too, or
we had a
what do
garden.
y'all
We did
do?
not, yeah, we did not have a farm. We just had a garden, and
Okay.
so we planted, some tomatoes and cucumbers and stuff. It wasn't too extensive, um, but you had stuff growing in your yard. Like, I used to think my mom was more aware. She wanted to always make like dandelion tea and mullein tea. And I used to think, that's crazy. That's just a weed. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And and I was probably
Ah.
18 years old, 19 years old before I realized that, oh, she really didn't know what she was talking about, about something.
Okay, so you had a dad who cooked and made, all kinds of meals for his family on the weekend. And your mom sounds like she was doing some gardening and she was a herbalist. Sounds like she was making
Yeah,
dandelion tea. Okay.
right. Yes.
So
Yes.
how'd you
Yes.
figure out that she knew what she was doing or she knew something?
It wasn't until I started doing some research or started seeing dandelion
Oh, okay.
in stores. I was like, wait, this stuff was growing wild in our yard. She really was, and now I know all the health benefits
Mm.
of it as I was studying. I probably was in my mid-20s when I realized that she was on to, she knew what she was talking about.
Typical teenager then, right?
Typical teenager.
So,
Yeah.
so tell me about how did you decide to be a cook? I mean, I don't, what led you onto that path?
Well, I was
You
going
wouldn't.
to school. I was going to
Mhm.
Scott College at University of Wisconsin, Green Bay,
Mhm.
and my next older brother was in school in Baltimore at Morgan State,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
he had become a part of the Hebrew Israelite community, and I came to visit him. One thing led to another. I quit school, joined the Hebrew Israelite community,
Mhm.
and and of course in the Hebrew Israelite community, everyone is vegan,
Mm.
and
Okay.
um, because I didn't have a job, the first job I had, I worked at a seafood restaurant in Baltimore, which is still there, by the way, and
Okay.
yeah, which is, I mean, it's amazing in and of itself. But so I developed really good knife skills. So I, being in the community with communal living, so I'd go into the kitchen, I'd help the sisters prep because they didn't have the kind of knife skills I had, and I was able to
Oh.
learn recipes and peek behind and ask questions. How you do that? How did that work? And so cooking had always been a hobby, but I began to learn certain things. And I think
Mhm.
at some point, I think it was like 1986 or so, I decided, I really like this. I really wanted to do this.
Mhm.
And I dedicated myself to that. And I
Mhm.
set my goals as one day having my own restaurant. And
Mhm.
so I started the process then. It took me 13 years from that moment that I said I wanted to have a restaurant. It took me 13 years to open up my first restaurant in 2000 in Mount.
Wow. Okay. So you learned knife skills at the seafood restaurant and you
Yes,
practiced with the sisters at the Hebrew
yes,
Israelite community.
yes,
Then you decided you really loved this
yes,
and that you were going to open up a restaurant.
yes.
And then so what happened in those 13 years? What would you how'd you develop your skills at that point? Because you don't go from working in the back in the kitchen to opening up a
So
restaurant. Something happened. That had to have been an interesting journey on the way there.
it, it,
Your
it,
first
it
restaurant.
was. It was interesting because I think people already, because I was dabbling in the kitchen, they knew I had a passion or some talent for cooking. And
Mhm.
just one day I was just like, I want to do this. And a week later, I got a phone call from Soul Vegetarian in Atlanta. They asked me, how would you feel about coming to Atlanta to be the chef? The chef that was there was
Wow.
moving back to Israel. And they said, they'll train you for 6 months and you can take over. And
Okay.
they trained me for about 2 weeks, and she left, and she was like, "Good luck."
so so 6 months training got truncated to 2 weeks and you had to sink or swim, right, bro?
Islam. There's no internet. This is pre-internet and all that stuff. So I read a lot. I looked at recipes in traditional cookbooks, not in vegetarian or vegan cookbooks, but just regular cookbooks, and I
Mm.
just was trying to figure out how to adapt it, and that's kind of how
Hmm.
I learned a lot of trial and error, and just trying to figure it
Okay.
out that way. And
Okay.
so that's
Okay.
basically how I learned. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think there were any schools. What years was that? That was like
This
80s?
was
99,
1989.
89. Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah. So I wasn't aware of any vegan cooking schools at the time.
right.
Um, yeah. So it was just a lot of research and reading. That's what kind of got me on
Maybe
that.
maybe some vegetarian restaurant because I believe Chicago, like the Chicago Diner, started in '83.
Yeah, but you
But
remember, I was in Atlanta. I was in
right,
Atlanta.
right,
I started in Atlanta, so that was a whole nother. It wasn't Chicago, that's for sure.
right,
Um,
right, right.
but I learned quickly, and we won best vegetarian restaurant um, in 1990. So that kind of helped
Okay.
put us on the map. Yeah.
Well,
So it
whoa.
was
So
long,
wait a minute, wait a
one thing
minute.
for
So
sure.
you got there, and a year later, you got
We
named
won. Yeah, we get
best
recognition.
vegetarian restaurant.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. But just being in the nation is no shortage of work. I mean, you literally my day started at 6 o'clock in the morning and often didn't end until 9, 10 o'clock at night. So it
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
definitely intense, whether it was self-inflicted or just because of the need of the situation. Those 4, 5, 6 years I was in the community cooking at that level was very intense to say the least.
Hmm. Okay. So from that point on, or from the point that you became a Hebrew Israelite, you've been a vegan, right? Is that
Yes,
pretty much? Okay.
I've been a vegan since December 1st, 1981.
Okay.
Oh,
Have there been any relapses? Tell the truth.
yeah, yeah. Intentional. My for probably a good 8, 9 years, it was very strict. There was no
Uh,
sugar, no eggs, no dairy, no animal products whatsoever. And I think the first time I was working at the airport uh, as a part-time work, and I ate a Snickers bar, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm cheating." So that was, but that was the extent of it probably early on. I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I would eat a slice of cheese pizza once or twice a year. But my body was so used to it, it would shut down. Right? It just would, my stomach would be in knots for days.
Mm.
I just wasn't worth it. It was not worth it.
Wow. So once you went vegan all those years, it just your body reacts to any animal products at this point. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
wow. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I was going to ask, was there a personal reason for making the shift to veganism, but it was a spiritual reason. So is there a spiritual, because when I read the values of the restaurant of Majani, which I'm so happy that my husband and I were supporters.
Yes, you were.
What is there's a spiritual component. There was a spiritual component to how you think about food. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and
Yes.
where that comes from now?
So, when I first was exploring, considering becoming in the Hebrew Israelite community, I'm presenting arguments, why is this the path? And I think it was the thing that solidified it for me was Genesis 1:29. And it talks about eating the fruit that had the seed thereof and all the plants I've given you for food. And if that was the diet that was given to man in its highest state, then why would we do anything less than that? So for me, it just made sense from a spiritual standpoint, and that's what started. Um, the health benefits I learned as time went on, as I studied more about it, and the environmental impact, um, uh, animal rights impact. Those are all things that came over time. But initially, it was just like from a spiritual standpoint, I wanted to aspire to a high level, and and then making it. I felt like it was making an investment at that time in my own health. There were some things that some of the elders told me about, blood circulation and how eating foods, it would affect me when you turn 50, and so those are all things that also had an influence on me. But Genesis 1:29 was probably the biggest.
Okay.
Validation.
Okay. So the elders forewarned you that a long-term diet unhealthy diet was going to impact you by the time you turn 50.
Absolutely.
Oh,
No
wow.
Viagra needed.
Okay. Okay. Uh, so tell me about, so I know when I met you, you were at another location, like on 131st, but let's skip forward to Majani. Can you tell our audience what Majani means and how you came up with that name?
So, prior to, I came to Chicago in 91. So it's always been, I was at Soul Vegetarian
Right.
for 7 years. Then I had my first restaurant. So I was always identified, I was very closely identified. It was when I was Soul Vegetarian, I had a catering company. It was called Tsadakeeyah's Catering. And so when I met my wife in 2005, we worked together under that brand. Started from home, went to a shared kitchen, moved out of the shared kitchen, went back home, living on the third floor. So all this up and down stuff. And so when we decided to become now that we had worked together, I wanted an entity that didn't just reflect me, that was a reflection of us. And so we want to rebrand ourselves as a team effort and do really work through how we were going to move forward as a team. And so we were researching names, and she actually found the name Majani, and it just made a lot of sense because Majani is a Swahili word that means green. And for us, it was not just the green dye, but at the time we were learning more about sustainability and using fresh and local and all those things. And so it made sense to adopt that name for us. And so when the restaurant, so we worked as a catering company from 2010, and the restaurant opened up in 2017. When you come to the restaurant, you'll see that like all the tables that are there, I made out of reclaimed oak, and timber, like all the ceiling work, all the stuff that was reclaimed tin from that had been there, and all of the brickwork. So green was, just using what we had to make to make it look nice and make it look presentable. And so we, one of the things that we wanted to do was an effort to hire locally. So we wanted to make sure that we are hiring folks from South Shore that can walk to work. Most of our staff, can walk to work. Then, of course, being able to utilize local farmers. Like we get produce from Urban Growers Collective, which is just 2 miles up the street. And there's other farmers that we get greens from Glenwood, from Growing Home. So these are all institutions that have been around the city that we try to use as much as possible during growing season. So these are all things that tie into our name, Majani, being green.
Absolutely. I didn't know, when you were, I didn't know that you had all those skills. I remember when we were talking about putting the restaurant up, and you made those tables and some of the other decorative elements within the restaurant. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful space.
Thank you.
And shows the versatility and that you have. It's like, oh my God, he's more than just a cook. He got skills.
Oh, Majani.
He's got skills. Nazra's a lucky woman. He got skills. So one of the things that we talked about, when you opened up, Majani, we talked about. Yes, Christy, did you have a question? I thought it was Christy. Yes, it's called Majani Restaurant. The website is majani.biz, MAJANI.biz. And if you go online, you can see some of the, if you're able to go online and still be on with us, you can see like some of the interior and what that looks like. And in fact, my plan is that everybody who's here in Chicago, I want to take you out to Majani and let's have a communal dinner. They have a communal table there. So I want to make use of that communal table. Dinner will be on me, and I want everybody that have from Chicago to come out and have dinner at Majani's.
Thank you.
Can
you put that on the chat? His email or whatever you were saying?
The website. Yes. Can somebody put that in the chat? I don't want to get offline here. So what made you decide to do it on the South Side? I mean, because I know the story, but I think it'll be good for our, the folks here to know why you decided to do this on the South Side. Because we have, there's a couple of, there's a vegetarian restaurant on the North Side. There's lots of vegetarian restaurants, but they're all on the North Side. And
when we first opened up, before we opened up Majani, there were probably 5 vegan restaurants in the city, and we
just really.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Now there's probably 30.
Okay, and when did you all open up again?
We opened up May 2017. Sorry. So we're knocking on 7. About a month away from a 7-year anniversary.
Okay.
Somebody told us there was a vegan place up north, or they had vegan dishes. We drove all the way on Division Avenue, and it was horrible. And I mentioned that because I don't remember the name of the place, but it wasn't just bad. It angered me that this is what people think vegan food is, and I was like, we can do better. And I didn't immediately decide on South Shore, but we drove around the city. We're trying to look at places, and I was like, what are we doing? Why are we driving around the city looking for a spot? Like, let's look in our own backyard. Why are we trying to, be somewhere when we could? Because I wasn't sure if I was going to bet on my neighborhood was part of it. Would my neighborhood support me in a way that would allow us to flourish? And we had conversation about it, and I had concerns about safety and security. And I was like, what are we doing? We're feeding into the same rhetoric that we see in the news, that we hear in the paper, that we watch in the paper and all this stuff. And I was like, we can't buy into that rhetoric. And so let's bet on ourselves, and let's bet on our neighborhood. And it's the spot where we are became available. And the rest was history. The rest was history. Part of it was just like, as I mentioned before, just being frustrated with having to leave out of our neighborhood every time we wanted to sit down and have a good meal, and not have to order through bulletproof glass. And just there was at the time there had been stories about how brothers had gone to Starbucks and the police got called because they're sitting there having a cup of coffee. I was like, we need a place where we can be respected and treated well in our own neighborhood, and so that's how we ended up, betting on ourselves in our own neighborhood.
Yeah. So Michelle has she's pulled up the menu.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one of the things that as you look at the menu, for many years we had, when we started for many years, even before I met my wife, we had a meal delivery service. And so, and as you know, Doctor, because I know you were one of our clients for a long time. And so we developed, most of our clients were African American. And so we wanted to develop profiles that would be interesting and intriguing and not repetitive. And so a lot of the recipes that are currently on our menu are things that we kind of developed over time that would satiate the palate of primarily the African American community. And so having the meal program allowed us to kind of perfect recipes and develop recipes to see what worked, what didn't work. So the menu that we have now is a combination of things that we've served over the years that were most popular, or things that being a vegan for 40 plus years that I really enjoyed. And so this is Majani's kind of the evolution of all of it. It's a lot more that I would love to do, but there's only so much you can do in a restaurant setting.
I'm looking at this Sloppy Joe sandwich, I'm salivating now. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you are in Alabama, Michelle, because
oh no, honey, I'm gonna order up a the blue ice special. Just put it on some blue ice and get it to me.
Gotcha.
Dr. Blessman, this is such a fabulous story. I'm gonna keep sharing the menu and peruse around the website since we have the chef on live. But I know our community is burning up to ask questions.
Okay.
And so I definitely
are there questions in the chat?
Conversation. Yes, there are a couple of questions in the conversation in the chat. But I did want to just kind of chime in with where Dr. T, which look, doctor, because we got a doctor in our community. I just let the doctor in. So that's where my mind was. But Chef, as you were speaking, I think one of the things that makes me apprehensive about the vegan way is what you said. Like, I go to regular soul food restaurants and be mad. Like, I cook better than this. Like, I didn't have to waste my money. The gravy was out the can. Like, you have this palate. And so that's one of the things that I felt a certain kind of way. I'm like, who's gonna make this tofu taste like chicken?
That is a fair question. I don't know if there's anything. There are some products out here now that are very close to chicken. We don't use, everything we make is from scratch.
Okay.
And so we don't necessarily try to always emulate meat products, but we try to make vegetables in an interesting way in a way that maybe you couldn't necessarily do at home. But flavor them in a way and give it texture in a way that you can appreciate the meal and the effort and the ingredients that are in the meal. We do a couple of meat, like we have a spicy chicken sandwich and we have a jerk chicken sandwich.
Okay.
And so it kind of gives you the flavor, the texture, but we're not trying to like 100% emulate what it is to eat chicken, because chicken is chicken is chicken. It's its
Right.
own thing.
Right.
But I think you can come to our restaurant, and because we know how to season food, that you can
Mm-hmm.
have a pleasant experience.
Okay.
And so uh, that's what I would say about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Another comment I wanted to make, and I'm definitely want to open up to my community, is Slutty Vegan is in Atlanta and
Yeah,
has
they have. I don't know
several.
how many franchises they have now, but they have several franchises around between Atlanta, New York, and around the country. So yeah.
Okay. I think on a political scale, because yes, the vegan is all around us today. So there really is no excuse for me to just venture out and try. But I'm picky about food. So I wouldn't want to try anyone. I would want to try, like, say, Chef T's vegan. Um, but the slutty part of the name in the restaurant is what I want to say turned me off. I'm
Hmm.
not sure what message was being sent when in the creation of the name. So I appreciate the story behind the name of your restaurant, because I'm very Afrocentric, very Black people centric, very let's get back to our roots, visionary person. And so I can appreciate the time it took for both you and your wife, to develop and name who we are and where we came from as part of the restaurant, because it's so much more than just eating, as Dr. Blessing was sharing. It's spiritual, what you
Mhm.
take into your body. And so as I
Yeah.
navigate my journey and making my change, I'm drawing it back to the spiritual side. So I really do appreciate the time that you all took to bring this into fruition. Have you ever thought about selling your products, say in a grocery store, mass
Yeah,
marketing?
that's a very interesting question. Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
We Before we opened up Majani, we had attended an event. Whole Foods was there, and they asked us to come and give a presentation for their buyers downtown, and they loved our product. They were like, this is just before their flagship on Kingsbury opened up. This is before Hyde Park opened up. This is before 63rd Street opened up. They wanted us to put product in all those stores, and so we had a decision to make. Are we gonna become a food manufacturer, or are we gonna open up a restaurant? And we chose the restaurant because we felt like that would make more of a community impact.
Mhm.
Um, so now that we have done the restaurant, um, I think there are other opportunities that we like to circle back to. Whole Foods is one. Doing a cookbook, I just saw someone ask a question. Doing a cookbook is one. We'll come back to that in later, because um, I want to do a cooking a podcast where we can have this kind of conversation on a regular basis, and have next time I can have Dr. Blessman in, and we can talk about the benefits of a vegan diet from a mental standpoint, from a mental health standpoint, because it does have an impact on your stress level. There's a variety of things that so from that standpoint that we like to have conversation about. But yeah, so there are other avenues that we want to get to, from this, putting out information out there from food creation. So you know we're we're certainly kind of circling back around to that. And in terms of the name of Slutty Vegan, I agree. Food, one thing I learned from being in the Hebrew Israelite community, the power of names. And
Yes.
And so just that energy was just not, was not something that we would do. Um, and we make everything from scratch. We don't use Impossible Burger meat or Beyond Meat or anything like that. Everything we make is made from scratch, with the
Awesome.
exception of our probably the one thing we don't make from scratch, but everything else we make from scratch. And I think that's what separates us from other restaurants is,
Except for what?
Any plans to come to Montgomery, Alabama?
honestly, I think that some of the biggest opportunities for growth are down south,
Mm-hmm.
because in Alabama in particular, it's one of the worst states in the union for healthy eating options or healthy eating habits. And I think Majani down south would absolutely be a perfect fit because
Yes.
that's where you go. You go to a place that our philosophy has always been go to places that need it the most. So I
Yes.
think in Alabama, I have family in Huntsville,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I think down south is definitely a place that, this is the year we wanted to become a franchise. And we
Okay.
wanted to do all the things necessary to become franchise ready so that we can prepare ourselves and those that are interested in, buying a Majani and putting them around the country. So
Well, doctor, you know what you're giving these doctor vibes. Chef T. I will definitely keep in contact with you through Dr. Blessman because I do have a young man down here he's been trained in the golf courses, the membership clubs, chef, and he loves to cook. And this concept of the vegan is something that we need down here desperately. Like we don't even have a good soul food restaurant, honestly.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so this is, I mean, even if you went to Huntsville, I will drive the 2.5 hours.
I've been to Huntsville, and Huntsville
Mhm.
didn't even have a Black-owned restaurant.
Wow. See, yeah,
Yeah,
we're leaking.
but I think that Majani's Majani's palate and
Mhm.
the taste profiles of the food that he serves
Mhm.
can cut across all different
Oh, of course.
ethnicities because it
Yes.
is classic. It's soul food, but it's also
Mhm.
classic Americana food too.
Mhm. Well, one
Um,
thing that the other people enjoy down here in Alabama is good food.
just good food, right?
Yes,
just
they want to eat good food. And so it's just, it's a missed opportunity when entrepreneurs don't think about us because I'm still here down in Montgomery, Alabama. But I'm not gonna hog up the chef because I know my community, they have some great questions in the chat. But if you want to talk to the chef, you can. But the one question Sister Shirley put, Sister Shirley, you want to ask about that plant-based versus
There were two. I think you had two, Shirley. You're not you're still muted, babe.
Okay.
There you go.
Hello, everyone. I am probably 80% vegan,
awesome.
just from participating with my counterparts. I'm juicing now, just like everybody else. I'm using cabbage and collards and all that. And so I don't think I always understand the difference between plant-based and vegan.
Yes,
And
good
so
question.
I was wondering, in your restaurant, are you doing both, or are you doing vegan, or help me just to figure out what's the difference?
So when someone says they're plant-based, it does allow for um room where they may have some where you wouldn't necessarily be vegan, because
Mhm.
plant-based is your diet is centered around plants, but you may eat eggs, you may eat dairy, you might even eat some meat. that is plant-based, and so you may eat honey, you may wear leather clothing, whereas a vegan, as it's defined now, is someone who uh, doesn't eat anything that ever had parents. You're not going to wear leather. You're not going to do honey, and so those are things that kind of make it more narrow in terms of what is a vegan versus a plant-based, and that your diet is strictly fruits and vegetables and nuts and herbs and that kind of thing. There's no animal products whatsoever. So
Okay.
that's the distinction between the two.
And so you are vegan, not vegan and plant-based. You're vegan, right?
I am vegan, and our restaurant is vegan. So we don't
Vegan.
use honey or anything like that.
I got it. Okay.
Although I will say I do have leather belts. I do have leather shoes. So
Okay.
that
And then the other thing is, do you deliver? Are you with the Uber
Now,
Eats?
Shirley,
Yeah.
no, Shirley, we going out. You live in Chicago. We going
I
down
want
to
to
the
go
restaurant.
like next week for my birthday.
Oh,
Can you make that happen then? Can we put that on the schedule in front of everybody? If
okay,
not,
May
if
5th.
not,
Let me
well,
see.
it doesn't
Wait a
have
minute.
to be that day. It could be the following week. I've been before, but now that I eat so differently, I'm just ready to embrace it now.
Gotcha. And thank
So
you for coming.
I really want to check it out from where I am right now.
So May 5th, they have their Sunday brunch. That's your birthday, right?
May
Okay.
4th, but we can
May
go
4th.
May 5th.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go May 5th for the brunch. That would be wonderful.
Can you check and see if there's a flight out of Atlanta to Chicago?
Or we can do
Yeah.
the following week. I'm flexible. I want the experience.
Can't do the following week, but we can do the May 4th, 5th. We can look at that.
Okay, cool. And then the other thing is I saw something in a green glass. And I remember you guys saying something about that it was a liver cleanse. Do you still do that? Was it a smoothie?
At Majani?
Uh-huh.
We up until a few months ago, we were getting juices from a young lady. Actually, it was a young girl that I've seen when she was knee-high to a grasshopper, that has kind of grown up in the lifestyle, that she started her own juicing company. So we were getting her product up until a few months ago. So Banny's Beats, called Banny's Beats, Oriel Bannister, and so I know she was having some issues with production. So we're going to add fresh juices to the menu next week. So
good.
We're still working through what juices we want to offer, but it'll be something simple to start off with. So we'll have some fresh juice options coming up soon again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Question to ask. This is Renee. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you, Dr. Button, for having him, and Michelle. My question is, what are some of the health benefits from eating a vegan diet versus a plant-based diet?
Oh, there's a long list. I think
And the reason why I asked you, you said you went to Morehouse, right? Did you go to Morehouse, or did I hear that? Did I hear that?
no,
Okay,
no,
sorry.
I did not go to Morehouse. No, I am, from a culinary standpoint, I am self-taught. My wife went to culinary school, but I did not. I think I know the benefits of, and a lot of what I'm telling you is not just from what is out there now, but just from my own experience. Just you kind of get to your natural weight. You know, I'm 6 feet, 200 pounds, probably about 17% body fat. So I don't take any medication for high blood pressure, for diabetes or anything like that.
He looks young, but he's my age.
No, not to say that I have not at some point, I gained an extra 10 pounds 2 years ago, and I had to step up my game, my exercise game, to like kind of get back to where, because I had gotten some bad habits, and so it's like you're not immune from some things if you don't stick to the plan. But I think just as a rule, a good vegan diet, it helps keep you at a certain weight. Low blood pressure. Whenever I have my blood pressure, but the doctors always look at me like, you're not on any medication for high blood pressure. And I said, no, I've never had any medication. A lot of men my age are on some kind of medication for blood pressure, and so it naturally lowers your blood pressure. One of the big things that you see now, especially for athletes, is that it actually can help reduce inflammation, and inflammation is the root cause of a lot of different ailments. And so eating dairy and eggs and animal products, it brings a lot of inflammation to your system, which is going to affect your joints. It's going to affect your immune system, all these things. So plant-based eating, beans in particular, lentils, it helps to flush all kind of contaminants out of your system. And so it helps to lower your blood pressure. Diabetes, the best thing for diabetes is a plant-based diet. So some of the things are that the vegetables actually help to help with your mental cognitive behavior. So the list goes on and on, but those are just some of the things. I remember reading an article years ago. There had been a long study about ways to help fight cancer, and what they came back with was eating phytochemicals, which is broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. These are all the things that were the best source of fighting cancer, was your cruciferous vegetables. So the list kind of goes on and on. Migraines, having a vegan diet, before when I first met my wife, she had problems with migraines, and I was like, well, what do you eat every day? She was working at a hospital at the time, and she was eating buttered noodles and eggs and stuff. And so as soon as she switched over her diet, I can count probably on two fingers how many times she's had migraines in the 20 years together. So, and migraines where maybe it was a mild migraine, but not like when she used to have, where she had to be shut in a room, total darkness for 2-3 days at a time. So it would just be like a really bad headache. So she doesn't have any of those kind of issues anymore. So probably the most important thing, I think, is just having a good digestive system. So much of what ails Americans on the standard American diet is constipation and ailments related to not having a good digestive system. So being on a good plant-based diet, flushing all those toxins out of your system, and not having issues with digestive orders is probably the most important thing.
What about respiratory, problems?
Well, yes, because dairy does do a lot of damage to, in particular, because it produces a lot of mucus, and it ends up in your lungs, and you see you're coughing up phlegm and mucus. That's your body signaling you that you're on overload. Like the first time I even get a sniffle, it's like, okay, what are we gonna do? We got to start going through the protocols of, what are you eating? Are you eating too much of this or that, or are you eating too late at night, or whatever? So when you're in tune with your body, you're going to automatically start to go through your protocols to understand what's going on. But mucus is not a natural thing where you start coughing it up and where your nose is running and all. So it's your body telling you, signaling you need to make some changes in order to get your body in balance.
And the reason why I asked, my pastor's having that problem, and someone else I know, just wondering what would be good for them to eat with the respiratory problems, pneumonia, stuff like that, and to help their body.
Mullein tea is a good start for any respiratory issue. But mullein tea is where I'd start. And I would start with dandelion because it's going to cleanse your liver, and your body is your best defense to fight these things as opposed to chemicals. And your body, the tools that it needs to fight is the most important thing.
And most of the time, the pills are just treating the symptoms.
Exactly.
The food could actually cure.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Yes.
So, Chef, this is Christy Watson. I would like to know, in your 40 years of eating vegan, have you ever had a problem with your protein levels? How do you maintain that?
I was wondering when that question was
going to come up.
I was wondering when that was going to come up. No, absolutely not. I will say this from someone who has been an athlete all my life. I was an avid runner probably up until I was 45 or so, and I just decided I didn't want to put that kind of mileage anymore on my knees and stuff. So my knees were more of the issue. So I started weight training, and it's just, the gym I go to is the local gym right up the street. And so it's interesting to me to see, how I look and how I can lift versus guys that lift weights and have been doing it for a while. I mean, there's definitely, your body does not know the difference between animal protein and vegetable protein. So as long as you,
I kind of figured that, but they tell us in America that we need animal proteins to sell it to us.
Yes.
To make
that is all marketing that began in the 1860s. It's just all marketing that has fed that lie, and has, when we were coming up the food pyramid, where you have to have eggs, cheese, dairy, and at the very top was a little bit of plants, and actually it's the other way around. Like our plate should be mostly green leafy vegetables, and fruit and grains, and very little of the protein that they say that is required. And a lot of elite athletes now are understanding that when it comes to developing your body and rest and recovery and the reduce of injury, that a plant-based diet is more optimal. So,
because you're getting rid of the inflammation, like you said, like y'all were just talking about. You're getting rid of inflammation. Like, what do we need cheese for?
Right.
And I can tell this group, I took cheese out of my diet when
we need it for mac and cheese.
No, you don't. But you really don't need mac and cheese, because Dr. Tate told us that, and Dr. Happy also tells us that you don't need cheese and dairy.
It's a want.
I'm just messing with you because Chef T has mac and cheese on his
menu. I'm sure he makes mac and cheese just as good without the cheese.
The thing is, we're told to eat dairy products for calcium. But when you eat milk, it actually, when you understand the chemical process of how that gets absorbed into your body, and the reactions that take place, it actually ends up depleting the calcium out of your body by eating dairy products. And I'm not a scientist, I'm not a nutritionist.
It dehydrates you. It literally dehydrates you and your organs, and that's how it's depleting it out of your system.
Yeah. And so
as a scientist, I know that it dehydrates you literally.
And so you end up pulling the calcium out of your bones, and that's why in the Western diet, on the standard American diet, why we have such high rates of what's the disease for brittle bones?
Osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis. Yeah, high rates of osteoporosis because your body is pulling calcium from the bones to offset what we're doing to it by drinking dairy. So,
Doctor,
you can do that. You can research that.
I tell you, it's on my list. Chef T, we have Lizzie has a question.
Yes, and I know it's 8 o'clock, but I got time. I'm not.
This crew here. Oh, hun, we involved and engaged. We'll have you to 10 o'clock tonight. No, we're not. Come on, Sister Lizzie.
Thank you, Michelle. Hey, Chef T, that's a menu worth traveling to Chicago for. It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
But my question is, did you find that when you shifted to a vegan diet, it helped you raise your vibration for a deeper connection with God or a source?
That is a great question. That is a great question. I think I was at that age, I was just kind of learning about that aspect of me. I was just kind of coming into, I was 18, so this is to be clear, and I was just kind of learning about spirituality from a deeper sense than just going to church. And so I will say that that has evolved over time. I would say that it certainly has kept me in a place. I believe it has kept me in a state of peace. Now, as I've had a chance to travel around, I've been to Israel, I've been to India, and I think in particular going to India and studying and learning about meditation and understanding the two, that it intensified my peace and my spiritual growth. I think it helps keep me in a peaceful place. I think that's part of it. So I think those two go hand in hand. I think those two go hand.
I love that. Thank you.
Chef T, are you open to share a recipe that we can make for our family that is not intense and not intellectual property?
Maybe
No,
with tofu.
Okay.
any tofu dish I'm happy to share, but I will tell you, there was a time when I especially when I first kind of learned about tofu, I would eat tofu almost every day. And I think about a month into it, I was like, why am I having all this mucus in my system?
Right.
And then I learned at that point that tofu is something that's very rich, and that once or twice a week is enough for tofu. What I will eat almost every single day are lentils. And what I would tell anyone who's on, like, lentils is, if you Google the top 5 healthiest foods on the planet, lentils is going to come up almost every time.
Oh my God.
So lentils is what I would always recommend to anyone as the center of your diet. Now you can make lentils. We make lentils at the restaurant. We make lentil soup. We make an orange lentil soup. We make a brown curry lentil soup.
Oh my God.
We make our breakfast sausages out of brown lentils. We make a lentil mushroom burger that's out of brown lentils. On occasion, we'll do a meatloaf that's made out of lentils. So they're very versatile. They're extremely nutritious. They're high in fiber. They have prebiotic enzymes in it, so it helps your diet, which is better than probiotic, because prebiotic remain versus probiotic can get flushed out. So the prebiotic really helps with your gut biome, and so the good bacteria in your gut. So lentils are like top thing on my list in terms of. So if there's a recipe, I'll share with you whatever you like. But lentils are the thing that I would probably think would be the most beneficial to the group.
So I made
when you were saying about tofu, excuse me, as you were saying something about tofu, because my granddaughter, she loved tofu. She almost eat it every week, every day, just about. And I was wondering if that was too much for her. So
yes, it is. And from my experience, from all that I know, tofu is something. What's important in a vegan diet is variety. And just, as they say, eat the rainbow. I learned that early on. Eat the rainbow. So I'm always trying to eat, a colorful diet, and I think that's most important. And have a variety of diet. Like, I don't think you should get hooked on one thing. Like, I love tofu, so I'm gonna eat that every day. It's having a variety. So it's having different sources of protein, from tofu to beans to nuts and seeds, and So getting that variety, I think, is most important. So I
Yeah.
would definitely advise to not eat tofu every day because it is very
Yes.
rich.
Yeah. She does a lot of coughing sometime and nose running. We think it's just the
Yep.
air, but
Nope.
it kind of bothered me. Something
It's too
about
much.
that tofu.
It's too
Huh?
much. It's too much tofu. She can't,
Too much.
don't eat tofu every day. When she gets to that point, you just probably just take a break for a couple of weeks, you know,
Mhm.
and um, and get some other sources of protein.
Thank you.
So
You know,
I made a Lenten lasagna.
Ooh, it
It was
sounds good.
very good.
how did you use
But
the
I
lentils?
wasn't, how
Did
did I?
you use the lentils? How did you use the lentils? Did you grind them up? Did you use canned
Well, I
lentils?
did. I did grind them up because I I don't do well with a lot of beans. So any beans that I eat, I have just started to mush them up a little bit uh to get my protein that way. Because when I was trying to get off of meat, I ran into an issue when I was younger that my protein deficiency was down. And so I bought into, I needed to add more meat. But now that I'm feeling so much better by the way I'm eating, I don't want to add, I can't think of any meat that I like, that I love anymore. So I did make some Lenten lasagna about a month ago. That was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Very good.
That's interesting that you bring that lentils up because I had an episode, Chef T. I ate some roast beef and it took me out bad. I mean, it took me out so bad I had to call the paramedics for myself. That's how
Wow.
bad
Ooh.
it took me out. And it took them so long to get to me that I was like, I'm just gonna die right here on my bathroom floor. So
Wow.
my team, I work for a heavily Indian, well, the company is owned by Indians, Bangladesh, and Diwali, or I don't know, I'm not saying that right. Anyway, my teammate, I was telling her how sick I was, and she said, Michelle, I eat lentils every day. She was like, every single day I make lentils. And she was trying to explain to me how to chop up the garlic and the onion
Yep.
and put it in ice cubes. It was just amazing how she could explain how to hold your food, because I think that's another thing in an American culture, one that I am trying to come to terms with in a um godly way. Um the waste, throwing food
Mm.
away and saying, God forgive me, because someone's out there hungry, but I bought too much or I made too much. Um, and so not having the skill set of chopping up your vegetables, maybe sauteing them. And she told me, she's like, Michelle, we make ice cube. We put it in the freezer and have ice cubes. And so we take them out and we use that for our seasoning of whatever meals, we're going to
I
cook. Like that never dawned on me, because I wasn't raised like that. I was raised in a traditional, you know, fried chicken, greens, cornbread on Sunday, you eat that on Monday, on Tuesday we had greens. That's the one thing my grandmother did do. We did have greens every single Tuesday, whether it was collard, turnip, mustard, but it always had a little piece of meat in it, of course. Wednesday was probably a pork day, where Thursday was, maybe another chicken, and it was predictable. Friday was fish, and Saturday was spaghetti. I mean, that's the way I was raised, and that's the way I have been, knowing that I now need to change. I have so many options. There's so many things available to me now, but it's just understanding I'm what Dr. Blessman says, the satiation, the tongue, the taste. Um, that's me. Like I have to have flavor. And Dr. Blessing will tell you, I can barbecue a mean rib. It's flavorful, back in the day when we went up to Michigan. But it was flavorful, and that's
Flavorful.
my thing. I need flavor so that the lentils help me make it flavorful. I bought a bag and it's still a bag sitting in the cabinet. Help me move it.
Well, two things I will say about that is, I think the first thing is sometimes people can give up on beans and legumes and peas because they can, as I say, beans being good for your heart.
Mhm.
And your body has to get, if you're not used to eating legumes and peas in that way, your body has to get used to it. Your body has to build up those enzymes to help you digest it easier. So there may be sometimes there can be some discomfort early on if you're not used to eating beans.
Mhm.
It can make you flatulent, but if you hang in there, there's hope on the other side, especially as you start pushing out some old stuff.
Mhm.
But I think lentils in particular, an easy way to look at it is if you take lentils, brown lentils in particular, and soak them overnight, grind them up in a food processor, and then chop up some onions and garlic. However you would do hamburger, just treat it like you would treat a hamburger at that point. You can put it in a skillet with some sauteed onions and garlic and let that saute into the onions. They'll kind of dry, they'll be kind of really moist at first. If you let it cook low and slow, you'll dry it out. It'll become dry, and at that point where it becomes dry and crumbly, then you can add your sauces, whether it's a tomato sauce or a barbecue sauce or a marinara sauce, and then from there, or a combination of sauces like red sauces like that. Or someone just posted, so that's how you could do a bolognese. That's how you could make a sloppy joe. That's how you could make a meat sauce for your spaghetti. And so that is a very nutritious, high protein, high prebiotic, high fiber meal that you can serve that can satiate your palate as well as fill you up, because you're going to have a fair amount of fiber. It's going to make you full. You're not going to feel like you need to eat, 2 hours later.
Wow.
And I would suggest, if you love pasta, to do the zucchini pasta, to take to get to make the zucchini spirals and to take that lentil mix and pour it over zucchini noodles. Like that is like the texture of raw zucchini is like eating al dente pasta. So
Really?
that is, it's an amazingly high protein, low carb meal that you will really appreciate.
Wow. Nia is in our community. She works at night, and so she's plugging her question in. Is jackfruit good?
Yes. 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 Jackfruit. There are a lot of recipes out there with jackfruit. I getting canned jackfruit. I'm not personally. I'm not a fan because it's really soft. If I'm going to use jackfruit, I like to find fresh jackfruit and pull it apart myself. And the way I like to do it is I like to eat the soft part. It tastes like juicy fruit gum, and actually jackfruit is the inspiration behind juicy fruit gum.
What?
But yes, when you eat the jackfruit you'll be like, oh yeah, you'll know that's where juicy fruit gum comes from.
Oh my goodness.
But that fruited part is really like, you can eat that, like I love eating that just straight. But the fibrous part in between, if you have a pressure cooker, I throw that in the pressure cooker for just the right amount of time, usually about 20 minutes or so, and then you can pull it apart. It's like pulled pork, and then you can smoke it, barbecue it, and have it as. I know some people will take it out of the can and they'll add mayo to it and treat it like you would treat crab. And there's a lot of recipes out there for jackfruit, but my favorite way is to take fresh jackfruit and treat it myself as opposed to the can. But the can is what's more convenient for most people. That's fine. You just got to kind of work with it to get that right texture, so it's not too soft, too mushy.
Gotcha.
Mrs. Belvilliers, she's asking, is sour soup good for you?
Sour sop.
Sour sop. I'm sorry.
Sour sop. Yes. Yes. I literally just bought some yesterday. I was at the grocery store, at a restaurant supply store, and they had sour sop they had a case of it in little individual packs. It was just taking the fruit and pulp and had it, and I was just excited. You can get it fresh. It's really good to eat fresh, but it has really high anti-cancer fighting properties to it. It's so that's one of the things that people are now kind of learning about. But it's just as a fruit, it's really, really pleasant to eat in and of itself.
Where do you buy that from? Where do you get it from?
More than
Can you buy it
likely,
in regular store?
more than likely, you're going to have to go to if there's a Latino market or if there's an African market, that's where that's
Okay.
where you find sour sop. I know that here in Chicago, surprisingly, there's a place called the Local Market right up the street from right at 71st and Jeffrey. They have carried it. I haven't checked lately, but if you can, you can get it frozen. Sometimes you can get it. You can get it frozen. So it's not only is it delicious, but it's really beneficial for your body.
But you just eat it like it is, or you just have to put it in something, or how do you eat that?
It's almost like a pear with the overgrown apple seed. You don't want to eat the seeds, but the flesh is really delicious.
Okay.
What is it again? Can you spell it? Did you say
Sour
sour?
sour sop? SOURSOP.
Okay,
Yeah.
got you.
Yeah, if you do some research, they say it's really beneficial, especially for if you're working. I mean, we all have cancer cells in us, so your body's always working to get rid of it. So it can be a good tool for keeping your body.
Okay.
Can you make a smoothie out of it?
Yep, I was gonna say that would be a good way to take some of it and put it in a smoothie. Yeah. That's how, I think that was a question, Doctor, you wanted to ask me. How do I start my day? I start my day, I'm usually up at 4 or 5 o'clock. I meditate for 40 minutes on average. I go to the gym, work out. When I come back, the first thing I do is make a smoothie. Kale greens, pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, frozen blueberry, frozen banana, a little soy milk and water. Sometimes I throw some dates in, but I don't eat sugar on as a whole. I don't like things really sweet. So, so that's usually my day. That's usually how I start my day. So that green, I know you guys have been on a green smoothie challenge. Like that shouldn't be a 10-day challenge. That should be a life commitment. In a green smoothie. If you've seen the benefits of 10 days, I know imagine what you feel like, doing that as part of your routine every day.
Yeah, there were about 5 people in our community who did a 10-day green smoothie cleanse, where we just had green smoothies for 10 days. Basically, I had, different kinds of greens, but basically 2 handfuls of greens, water, and, a couple of handfuls of frozen fruits. Put it in the mixer, drink it up, and we've had some incredible stories that have come out just from those 10 days. A couple of people had lowered, whose blood pressure had been up for decades, and it's come down and stayed down. Energy levels off the chart, people losing weight, I mean, people here, some of those folks are here on this, in the room tonight. You can tell your own stories, but yeah, just going vegan. Well, I guess that would be totally vegan for 10 days and just doing this green smoothie juice had a remarkable impact in a very short period of time.
Yes.
Somebody just posted a question about
Dr. Cato. Oh, can I
mixing.
say?
Oh, go
Yes.
ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Jones. Just wanted to echo Dr. Jones' expressions. I was one of those persons who flirted with being a vegan for 10 days, and I enjoyed it. I was one of the persons who saw some changes as it relates to my blood pressure and just feeling like walking, not having the swelling in my joints. My thing right now, my big challenge, and Dr. Jones challenges us to at least stay in touch with one another for a 30-day period, including the 10 days. And my challenge now is, okay, how do you infuse this into your daily lifestyle? So that's what I'm working on now. And different members of the team are trying the water fast and other vegetable and fruit related diets. But I can say that the benefits are just tremendous. Thank you.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. I know someone had a question about which is a great question, because I know the question was about, they read that you shouldn't eat blueberries with bananas, and I food combinations in and of itself are very important. Like we typically when it comes to eating, we have absolutely no clue as to what time of day we should eat, what time of day it works. Eating heavy after 6-7 o'clock is not good for your body. Where you're eating watermelon with dairy, or eating watermelon with anything is bad for you. And we'll go and have a big barbecue and then eat some watermelon afterwards, which is like horrific food combination for your body.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, watermelon should be, just as an FYI, watermelon should be eaten alone. Like you should eat watermelon with nothing else. You can eat watermelon with other melons, but you should not eat watermelon with anything else. And so just, we talk about eating fruits.
Can you tell us why?
Yeah, tell us why, please.
Because watermelon,
I know the diuretic, but tell
yes.
us why.
Now I'm a chef, so don't get me too deep in the weeds here, but because it's a simple sugar and it's absorbed in your stomach. It's absorbed in your stomach and small. And so when you eat something else along with it that requires different set of enzymes and starches start in your mouth, right? And so you cannot do both at the same time.
What
So
about the bananas?
So
All right.
there is, when it comes to fruits, fruits are divided into acid fruits, sweet fruits, subacid fruits, and so honestly, I have to look at the chart to see which ones go well together or which ones don't mix well together. I have to refresh myself on that one, because bananas are a sweet fruit, blueberries, I believe, are subacid, I believe. So I have to look and see about that combination. And if it's an issue for you, but I know that juicing is different, is different. When you juice, it's a little different. Your body absorbs it differently. And so if
Can I
it's an
just
issue
tell
for
you
you,
what I read?
maybe just blueberries and not bananas, or just bananas and not blueberries. I haven't had any issue with that, because you're blending it all up, but you can research that.
Do you
Yeah,
put
you
it
can research.
together? Do you put it together yourself, banana and blueberries?
Yeah, I take frozen blueberries, frozen bananas, along with my kale and my protein powders and my and my pumpkin seeds, and I just blend all that together. But yeah, so
So
so there is some, you can do your own research in terms of how fruits are divided, and what fruits are combined better with other fruits, and what some would say that some fruits that don't combine well with other fruits at all. So, yeah.
So one of the things that I was told by a holistic doctor was when I was eating watermelon, the watermelon was spoiling faster than the other undigested food. And so that was what was causing me to have the indigestion. So when I did it with the juicing, it was fantastic, because everything is really moving and flowing straight through. And that's the reason I was told to not eat watermelon with a meal, because the watermelon is going to break down and your system is going to digest it faster. So if it's sitting on top of food that's not digest, then it's going to spoil.
It's going to spoil
in your
everything else.
system. Yes.
That is correct.
Can you eat it? Can you eat it 2 hours after, or 2 hours before, or 20 minutes before your food?
Before, I would say, it takes 4 hours for your stomach to empty. So my suggestion would be before, and then maybe give yourself at least an hour, or 4 hours afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were saying something about that you were, Adventist some time back.
Your phone is breaking up. Your phone is breaking up.
There's quite a bit of Adventists there in Huntsville. It's a big community of Adventists there in Huntsville because they have a wonderful big church there. There's a lot of people. So I know I go there a lot. You would do well there. You go there. Michelle, watch that. So you need to go right to Huntsville. I'm telling you.
Yeah, look, I have family that my uncle William Jones was over the Southeast Conference for many years.
Oh yeah, that's
Uncle. Well, I call him Uncle Buddy.
I'm right here. I'm right. Oh, here in Tennessee, I go there. My children used to go to Oakwood College there in Huntsville. Yes, I know him. Oh my goodness.
So small world.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like Huntsville. Huntsville is a good market. I've done some research.
Yeah, you will. Come on down. It's just an hour from me, so be nice to have you here.
Okay. So Patricia, who's dialing in from London, had a question. You want to come on? You want to ask your question, Patricia?
Yes, okay. Yes, because the fruits and vegetables has a lot of spray of pesticides and herbicides. So if you eat a lot of it, does that have an effect on your body in any way?
That's a great question. Organic? We are very fruit and vegetable heavy, and everything that we buy is not organic. And so the way that we treat everything is everything that we're going to use, it goes in a solution of baking soda, salt, and vinegar, and we typically let it soak for about 15 minutes before we process it. But baking soda in particular really helps to remove. I can't say 100%, but it helps to remove a lot of residue on fruits and vegetables, and the pesticides. So it helps to minimize that. So that would be my suggestion. Is and quite frankly, parasites too.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes you'll see when you're processing, you'll see parasites kind of come to the top, and And that's why if you're going to eat raw, in particular raw vegetables, that you want to make sure that you let them soak in that solution of baking soda, salt, and vinegar. That'll help to minimize parasitic infection. Yeah.
Thank you.
Chef T, what about the kids, getting them interested in eating different? My grandchildren are coming for the summer.
Yeah. I think the thing when it comes to kids is getting them involved, not just in the cooking process, but in the holistic process. Grow some herbs from home. Kids when they get involved in that process, it's like Christmas every day. If you can teach kids how to grow herbs, start with that. If you can, and there's things like the tower, these hydroponic gardens that you can grow produce right from home from these hydroponic towers. Like you can grow produce, anywhere in your house all year round. And so get the kids involved in that. If you get them involved in the making of the produce, they're way more likely to be involved in the eating of it and in the prepping of it and the whole preparation. But if you can get them involved in that level as well, that's a good way to get them to eat fruits and vegetables.
Can you tell us, what is your social justice wish list? Because you're very involved in the community, you're intentional about the people you hire, the name of your restaurant. Do you have a social justice wish list?
Well, I think for us, our goal for Majani has been to replicate number one has been to develop a menu that we feel appeals to the hearts and minds and palates of in particular to the African American community. And so I think that's step number one, getting people that may be skeptical about eating. My nephew's visiting, he's visiting from Huntsville. He wants to learn how to be a chef, a vegan chef. So he's here with me until September. And he hates cauliflower. He was like, I hate cauliflower. I don't eat cauliflower. So he tried our barbecue cauliflower, and now he eats it almost every day.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
And so, developing products like that kind of have been able to showcase vegetables in a creative way that's more than just frozen or steamed or that kind of thing. So I think just being able to present a product like that in the first place is helpful. And for us, this is a question we had to ask ourselves. Like literally, I just asked my wife that question before I came on. Are we capitalists? Are we capitalists? Because that goes to the heart of how we look at serving the community.
Right.
If we're a capitalist, then I would have gone to a community that was more affluent, that I don't have to necessarily teach the community on how to eat in order for them to appreciate our project.
Right.
But Majani has had, one of the reasons why we had success early on was because we've been in the high schools doing cooking classes.
Okay.
We've been on the street corner, like here at 43rd and King Drive here in Chicago, like before the restaurant.
Oh, that's my stomping ground. Okay.
Yeah, literally on the street corner on a Sunday morning, making food, passing it out to folks on their way to and from church.
Wow.
And building community, 51st and Prairie, building a community garden, building a community garden at 71st and Merrill, building a community garden at Pembroke and Black Oaks, so that we can not only grow it, but show folks, take it from the field and make hot water cornbread with vegetables in it, or make a vegan pizza that's got all kind of vegetables that we just grew on it. So that it is not a one way. Like we built this from the ground up, and we've been at it for a very long time.
Okay.
And so I think we kind of understand what it takes to get folks to make that change. We just need to be able to replicate ourselves. And that's been kind of the challenge as of lately, is
Mm-hmm.
how do we go from one restaurant in South Shore to a dozen restaurants in Chicago, and how do we do it from Chicago and do it to Philadelphia and do it to Memphis and do it to Huntsville, so that we can really get folks on the path of looking at fruits and vegetables and produce and grains in a different way, and knowing that you can live a life that's not depleting our oceans of sea animals, and not factory farming and all the things. Like, we haven't gotten into the environmental impact of our way of eating, thinking that we got to have meat with every meal.
Right.
So there's this, we can turn it around, but it's not a capitalist. It's not from a capitalistic standpoint, that this has to be done from a position of, it's not about making a profit.
Not just about making.
Right. It's more. Yeah. Right.
Profit, as you know, profit is one of our core values, but it's not. It can't be what everything hinges upon. Like, you have to make a profit, obviously, but you have to look at it differently. If it was like, you have to also look at education and not exploiting one community over another in order for us all to have animal products. We're not even going to go into what it looks like for the environment. Like, when you slaughter animals by the millions, where does that blood go? When you have thousands of pigs that are excreting feces and urine, where does that go? These fields where they have these big pools of blood and urine and stuff that they what's the word, aerosolize and spray 100 yards at a time, that ends up in somebody else's yard. And whose yard is that? That's not somebody who's making $100,000 a year.
Not at all.
So there's all kinds of layers to this that we could really peel it back, but so that is my wish, is that we become less dependent upon animal products, more dependent upon products that aren't destroying the environment for us in order for us to survive.
This is why it's so important for people to understand, when you have your politicians creating and writing policy that harms us, the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy is intended for Chef T's message not to get into a public school system where the children are marginalized, because it's really just not Black children. White children are being impacted even more, right? But they're being taught that people of color, brown and Black people, are the problem, when in all honesty, it's these corporations. I had to show my son just the other day. I said, "You see those chemtrails moving about in Alabama? That's what we're dealing with. We have all the resources in the world, all the land, and we refuse to farm it. Here in Montgomery, the Hispanics are taking our place in that area. And because they have taken our place in that agricultural sector, they have opened their own grocery store in Montgomery, Alabama, right? Where in many ways they're being hunted, because you let the media tell you everyone is against the brown man and woman, but secretly, they are allowed to thrive and survive as a community and as a village. So you got to know that they are coming up within our own culture, where we are scattering ourselves. I was asking about the manufacturing of your products, Chef T, because I saw a Black woman on TikTok advertising all of her, creams and cheeses and everything, the biscuits and the whole 9 yards, and she got a spot in Walmart. And for someone like me who's here in Alabama, Montgomery, salivating just by the title of your menu items, I feel left out. And so I'm thinking, the way that I can be introduced to you is definitely through that market. I hope that you and your wife are considering that, to the point where I can just, Kroger's, Albertsons, Walmart, I don't know. I just want to be able to buy your product because I know it's right, 'cause
Well,
it's
well,
right.
Chef T, can you tell us a little bit because you do have a project that's about to start, the cooking classes, I believe, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, that's
Because
some good
that's
classes. Yeah, that'll help me.
that's coming. I mean, I think that's coming, right?
Online
Yeah.
cooking classes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we are working on two things. We're working on creating a podcast
Mm-hmm.
so that we can continue to have conversations like this to put
Yeah.
information about the benefits and um, some the benefits of creating the benefits of a vegan lifestyle and how can we create our own blue zones.
Yes.
Everybody's familiar with
Yes,
and
yes.
how can we become our own blue zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to have a podcast that centers around that, like how do we create our own blue zone and center the veganism is at the heart and core of that, but there's other things that go along with that as well.
Yes, sir.
That's the first thing. The second thing is one thing that we hear a lot when people come to our restaurant is I could be vegan if I could eat like this. And so that folks learn how to eat like this. So
Mm-hmm.
how can you make collard greens that are fast and easy that you can make in 25 minutes, 30 minutes
Mm-hmm.
that don't have
Meat in them.
Ham hocks.
Like that all fatal ham hock.
Because I think a lot of times
And his
people are
mac and cheese is off the chain.
thank you.
I'm gonna come
And
to
so
Chicago.
how
I would
can you make
encourage you to go out with me
things
some
to us
churches. Well,
that don't have animal products in it. So how
hmm.
can we sell those vegetables and bring life to ourselves and alleviate some of the issues that we have because all the issues that we have in our community are directly diet related. Diabetes is just an excess of
Sugar.
processed foods, and so we have to get there's so much information out here about all the things that we should eat, but we have to counterbalance that with all the things that we should eat and how to do that. So that's what the cooking class is going to be all about. So
That's
Mm.
awesome. I don't know if you heard me.
Excited.
Listen to Renee. I would encourage you to reach out to church because that would be an awesome thing to teach the young folks and the
Yes.
healthy cooking. We had Morehouse College come out now. And one of the ministers on Dr. E. Hopewell, thanks for letting in. And they came
Chrissy,
out.
we really can't hear you. It sound mumbled.
I don't know. They
Renee,
came out
I'm
with
sorry,
a
Renee.
section on healthy cooking and stuff, and I think it was really great.
Renee,
Yes,
you need to get closer to your mic because we can't hear you.
I am. I don't know. Maybe it's my
That's
computer.
better.
Sorry. But that's better? Okay. I
Yes.
just encourage you to reach out to the different churches and that'd be like a health and wellness because we had Morehouse College come out. Plus we had some doctors talk about healthy cooking and living and eating properly and organic food, all kinds of stuff. So that would be a really great venue to reach the people in the church because we don't eat right in the church.
yes, we literally we just had conversation with the I can't think of the name of the church. It's right here on 79th and Exchange, but they own a building at 79th and South Shore that's been vacant for about 5 years now. That we like. They're willing to sell it to us, so we need to kind of put our ducks in a row. But I would love to acquire that property. It will give us more space. It's got a big parking lot. We could have outdoor seating, and we could do more community outreach. And so I might get in touch with you guys regarding that project. But this is what we have to do in order to continue to teach our community and how can we make an impact on the community given the experience. Between my wife and I, it's almost 60 years of experience. So how can we continue to make an impact with the knowledge and skills that we have?
Okay.
I appreciate what you said about the our blue zone because up now, Asians and other places here, Loma Linda, California, these are people who are living
Right.
in the blue zone there.
Blue zone, Loma Linda,
Mhm.
California, Seventh Day Adventist community, and so they're living examples of how you can live well to your latter years.
That's right.
Based upon following these principles.
That's
Okay,
right.
everyone.
Dr. Blessman, this has been
8 it is 8:46. We have gone 46 minutes over. But if you missed it, you can hit the replay and get the recipe for, I think he gave us a recipe for the lentils and how you can take the lentils and use it like hamburger meat, so roll it back, so that was quite a few things, whether it was spaghetti or using the was it some kind of vegetable to make the noodles. I'll have to go back myself and look at that. But at any rate, thank you, Chef, for coming on. I appreciate you, love you, of course. And for those of you who are in Chicago, let's plan on celebrating Shirley's birthday sometime May 4th and May 5th at Majani's. I think we're gonna look at Sunday, May 5th.
You guys are so blessed. I'm jealous.
Me too.
Thank you, Chef.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.